Hello and welcome to another presentation with the Living Memory Association. Today we will be remembering a few well-known Edinburgh hairdressers from the 1950s and 60s. But first we take you on a visit to some of the amazing items in our collection at the Wee Museum of Memories right here in Leith. We only know the first name of this lovely young woman sporting perfectly coiffed hair in this studio portrait. There's a handwritten inscription on the photo which says, "With much love from Sissy." The photo is taken in Morrison's studio, which many of our museum and online visitors have remembered as a popular photography studio on Leith Street. Beginning in the 1930s when this photo was taken, soft, full waves like Sissy is wearing became popular because of the new at-home devices of curling irons. This meant that women could curl their own hair at home rather than visiting a salon, or at least hair could last longer between visits to the hairdressers. Something we have all come to appreciate over the past few months of lockdown. And here's a photo of vintage thermal hair curlers from our own collection in the Wee Museum of Memories. These hair tongs were heated up by being held over gas burners. Do you remember curling your own or your sister's or children's hair with curlers like these? Later, in the 1950s and 60s, for those who could not make it to the hairdressers, or to fill in between appointments, there were, as there are now, plenty of at-home DIY tools and props. Here's another item from our collection at the Wee Museum of Memories in Ocean Terminal. A vintage 1960s portable hairdryer with bouffant bonnet and a charming carry case in pastel pink. The photograph of the young woman sporting a bouffant style is Lily Gallagher, seen here in a fan photo with Alan Bomford, the guitarist from the 1960s local band The Embers. Once again from the collection at the Wee Museum of Memories, these photos show a 1960s or 1970s portable hairdryer. As you can see, the bonnet opens and pops up and the top snaps into place. It has multiple temperature control settings from cool to hot. The large round shape would have been perfect setting hair using the giant plastic or brush rollers for feathered Farrah Fawcett curls. While this could have been used at home like those we saw earlier, from its description it seems it may have been used by a professional cosmetologist who would travel to clients' homes for beauty and hair treatments. And here are two very special vintage hairdryer combos from our collection at the Museum of Memories. The description on the box on the left says, "Ronson Escort 2000 is a portable hairdryer with infinitely variable heat control, complete with adjustable hood, hose, hot air brush and comb. It also has a carrying strap so you can put the hood over your rollers, carry the unit with the shoulder strap, and dry on the go." You may have noticed the small front vent on the 1960s version. This was for drying painted nails. Ronson Consumer Products Corporation started as the Art Metalworks in 1897, making lighters, but later branched out into domestic goods such as electrical shavers and, of course, these ingenious at-home hair appliances for DIY salon styles. Of course, after all the effort to achieve the perfect curl and set, it has to last as long as possible. That's when the faithful scarf comes in. The stylish woman sitting in the wall in this photo is Margaret Sonia Payne, who, with her jumpsuit and headscarf combo, would not be out of place in a city neighborhood today. Her daughter Marion Tom remembers, "There was an alleyway between gate and wall where we played. My father owned a tire shop on the London Road in Mitcham. We lived above it in the flat and used the downstairs kitchen. My mother worked in the shop and nearly always wore the dungarees with her hair tied up in a scarf." And here is a memory and a photo of a bad hair day that we can all relate to, especially recently. The photo shows sisters Irene Hilda, Dorothy, and Eleanor Dodd with friend Betty in the front. Irene's son Ewan Houston remembers the story behind this photo of his mother and aunties. He said, "My Aunt Eleanor complains even now that they were given no warning that their photo was being taken. 'I look like I've come through the hedge backwards,' she'd say. The photographer's daughter is all neat and tidy, hair combed and smiling, whereas mum and aunts look like a bit ragtag and are focusing off camera. The Dodd sisters went on to get a reputation at school as going everywhere together. As wartime babies, they had a hard beginning to life and grew up with rationing. Even I, a generation later, still have an ingrained necessity to eat everything on my plate, whether I like it or not. Do-it-yourself grooming is not just for the ladies, of course. Here's more do-it-yourself and making do. Here are brother-in-laws Andrew Kinnaird and James Middleton, who, being on holiday, perhaps chose to skip the barbers and opted for an al fresco morning shave. This photo was taken at a holiday caravan park in North Berwick in the early 1950s. And here's a client who did choose a professional shave. This photo from 1945 shows George Hackard's grandfather, Willie B., standing outside Willie Liston's barber shop on Main Street. George Hackard, who donated the photograph, remembers that Willie Liston, the barber, was well known for popping next door to the pub halfway through shaving a customer with a cutthroat razor. And now we look at some photos and memories of well-known, well-loved, and well-visited local hairdressers. We start our memories in Portobello. This is Charlie and Annie Turner on their 30th wedding anniversary. Charlie Turner was a barber at number 28 High Street, Portobello, from the 1920s until 1970. At the time, he was the longest sole trader in Portobello. His wife Annie had been a goalkeeper for Portobello Thistle young ladies football team, but joined Charlie as a hairdresser in the 1950s. The shop had a Barber striped pillar outside and a bench seat with a brass plate with Charlie's name on it. This wooden bench, now outside Portobello Police Station, is still there in their memory. Do you remember Annie and Charlie Turner? Several of the photos and memories in the presentation today are from Ben Malinowski, whose father Bob opened a gents hairdresser in the Fountain Bridge area in 1951. Bob's real name was Bronislaw Malinowski, and he was originally from Poland, but, like so many enterprising Europeans, he moved to Scotland after the war and settled in Kelso. Ben remembers that his father's first shop had 3 barber chairs to the right as you came through the front door, with a paraffin heater, and the left side of the shop was partitioned to make a small living area, with a small portable cooker and a bed. Ben says, "I remember as a boy of around 5 years old spending the night there with my father. Also at the age of 6, I spent weekends sleeping in an alcove in the shop. The curtain behind my father in the photo was just to cover the wall mirror to make a better photo, we think." This photo is of the classic Westport original shop opened 70 years ago this year, surrounded by hair products for sale. Bob's son Ben remembers, "Our products for sale were combs, hair creams, and tonics. They were all spread around the shop, and it was my job to dust and clean them when I became an apprentice in 1961. It was my younger brother Robin's job in 1963 when he became an apprentice. Durex Gossamer is the only product not on display. They were kept in a drawer and produced after the question at the till, anything for the weekend, sir?" It wasn't long before Bob's hairdressing enterprise expanded, with a move to a bigger shop in Brougham Street in 1963. He then opened Lauriston Place a year later, and a shop in Cumley Bank in 1974, all given the eponymous name Bob's. Jack Milroy, the famous Scottish entertainer sitting in the barber's seat in this photo, cut the ribbon, thus officially opening Bob's in 13A Brougham Street on the 16th of January 1963. Ben remembers, "The people outside are passers-by, but the lady on the very left is Mrs. Weffa McKean, who with her husband Harry owned Henry's, the salon directly opposite. They also had other hairdressers in Edinburgh, and I remember that they managed to get Vidal Sassoon, a famous hairstylist, to come to Edinburgh to conduct a seminar at their hairdressers. The lady to Weffa's right is a member of her staff. We think the gentleman standing behind Jack Milroy might be Mr. W. Wilson, a local Liberal candidate for St. Giles Ward. Do you remember him? Or perhaps you recognize someone in the crowd of onlookers. If so, please get in touch to let us know. Here's another photograph from the opening of Bob's new appointment salon in January 1963. The hairdresser in the photograph was named Rona, and she later immigrated to Australia. Does anyone remember her surname? Bob's second shop was the first Barbers in Edinburgh to have appointments and a manicurist to do gents' nails. No wonder it was advertised as a continental hairdressers. Here's one last photo from the opening day of Bob's new shop, again featuring celebrity of the day Jack Milroy. At the time the photo was taken, Jack was appearing at the King's Theatre in pantomime A Wish for Jamie. As many of you may remember, Jack Milroy and Ricky Fulton were double-acted comedians who performed from 1958 all the way into the 1990s and were given their own Scottish television programme. Ben remembers that all customers were allowed to use the Remington shaver free of charge, but people walking in from the street had to pay 1 shilling. The junior apprentice in the shop had to clean and sterilize the shaver between customers. According to Ben, Bob's Westport Barbers was famous for the Tony Curtis, after the American film star, and Perry Como hairstyles. And this photo shows Bob attending to a client with a James Dean look. Ben remembers, Brill cream was not cheap, but we did sell gum trash, which was a cream that we made up in the Westport by the gallon, and sold for 1 shilling a bottle. It looked like Brill cream and it set rock hard. We called it jungle juice. Some of these hairstyles are very much back in fashion today, which goes to show that the interest in precision haircutting never goes away. The poster is an advert for Brill cream that was hung in the shop window. Bob's Barbers were also famous for neck shaves. In the Westport shop, every hairdresser had 6 open razors for shaving, and the apprentice had to keep all 36 razors sharp. Shaving in the Westport stopped almost overnight when the stainless steel blade was invented in the early 1960s. This was either the Wilkinson sword edge or the Gillette. Bob's Barber Emporium is responsible for another famous haircutting celebrity, Charlie Miller. Here in a photo on the day of his retirement in 1999, first started in hairdressing at Bob's Westport shop. In a recent interview in the Edinburgh Evening News, Charlie Miller remembered that it was his mother who suggested the career choice. He said, "My mother said, 'Charles, wouldn't you like to be a hairdresser?' The early seed was planted. I had also wanted to be a drummer, but not having a drum kit of my own, I decided I would join the Marines. I found out that you had to be 18 and I was only 15, so I quickly made the decision to become a hairdresser." As many of you will know, Charlie Miller's famous chain of hair salons, still going strong today, is best known for women's hairdressing. In the same interview with the Edinburgh Evening News, Charlie Miller said, "I actually wanted to be a ladies' hairdresser, but after 4.5 months search, I still couldn't find a job in any of the hair saloons in Edinburgh. Being a Bob's client, I was over the moon when I saw an advert for an apprentice barber, so I immediately applied and got the job on the same day. I had fantastic training in precision cutting, creating the coolest looks in the city. I loved it. My lights went on and I became immersed in hairdressing." This photo, taken in 1965 in the doorway of the Fountain Bridge Barber Shop, shows Charlie Miller as a young hairdresser. Bob's son Ben remembers from the start that Charlie Miller was destined for great things. He says, "I can remember as a young apprentice being amazed by the things Charlie could do with hair and his dedication to training nights when all the rest of us just wanted to go for a pint." After 70 years in business, the last of Bob's Barbers shops on Cumleybank Road closed only last year. Owner Robin Malinowski, the founder Bob's youngest son, decided it was time to hang up his apron and put away his scissors for the last time, as he and his staff, Linda Falconer and Davy Turner, agreed that it was time to enjoy retirement. This photo was taken inside the shop at close of business on October 31st, 2020, the last day it was open. Both Robin and Davy had trained together under Bob in the original shop. We leave you now with a homemade sign from Bob's original 1951 shop in Fountain Bridge. With over 70 years of business and many loyal customers, there must be so many memories of visits to Bob's Barber Emporium. We would love to hear yours, and we have surely left out many of Edinburgh's wonderful hairdressers. Please get in touch to tell us about them, or share your barber horror stories with us. Our wee Museum of Memories at Ocean Terminal in Leith is now open, so why not stop by and see some of the items from our vintage hairdressing collection. Thank you for your visit today, and we look forward to hearing from you.